Typically S years aren't too exciting with iPhones, but this year Apple's brought some pretty cool upgrades to the new iPhone 6s. So we're going to take a look at some of the live photo features, 3D touch, and more on the brand new iPhone 6s. The iPhone 6s has the same 4.7-inch display as last year's model, but it is running a much faster processor. So we have an A9 processor in here and also 2 GB of RAM. So things are pretty speedy and they're nice and slick, and iOS 9 seems to be running very well on this phone. The battery is slightly smaller this year, which is kind of unfortunate, especially considering how bad iPhone battery life typically is. But this year they've also added a new battery low power mode in iOS 9, so you can always turn this on if you start running low during the day, which is pretty useful. Otherwise, most of this is pretty similar. We have the same size here, and it's also made out of aluminum, so it's the 7000 series aluminum that we had on the Apple Watch. It should be a little bit stronger and a little bit more durable. Also, Apple has included this new rose gold color, which is pretty nice. As far as upgrades go, the biggest one has to be the camera. On the back here we have a 12 megapixel camera, which is a huge improvement over the 8 megapixel camera that was on last year's iPhone. This takes some pretty decent pictures based on our first tests, and it looks to be a lot sharper with more detail when you zoom right in on small things in the background of photos. So that's a pretty good upgrade. On the front we also have a 5 megapixel camera, which makes your selfies a whole lot better than they ever used to be. That was one of the things that iPhones used to struggle with compared to Android phones, which are now at 5 megapixels as well. The other cool thing that has come along with iOS 9 on the new iPhone 6s is 3D touch. Now 3D touch is something that is a little bit difficult to explain, but when you touch down on an app, it'll bring up different options for you, some quick shortcuts. And it's a new way to interact with iOS that makes things a little bit quicker and a little bit zippier. Now as time goes on, of course, Apple's going to be able to get this out to more developers, and more developers' apps are going to go along with this new feature, and you'll be able to use it more often. Right now it's a little bit restricted, so it's basically on iOS apps, but that's still something that most people are going to have on their phone, and it will get upgraded soon. Otherwise, the iPhone 6s is pretty much the same, although it is quite a bit quicker and a pretty big upgrade for an S year. You can get it now, and it's actually in stores, so if you're interested in an iPhone, this is the one for you probably.